Okay, before we get into the actual movie, we gotta talk about this tarnishing the legacy of Brandon Lee thing. Because there's a very vocal contingent of the fan base that feels like this movie is somehow negatively affecting the original Crow and Brandon Lee's legacy, as if all of the other stuff that came after the Crow didn't do that already. Because I don't know if people realize or remember, but they've made a bunch of bad Crow movies, a bunch of bad sequels, and a bad TV show. So I don't understand what this movie is doing that the other ones didn't. Because it's either none of the movies after the original Crow negatively affect the original, because you can always just go watch the original and those bad movies don't make the good movie any less good, or bad movies after the first one do tarnish the legacy of the original, but by that token, all of the other projects already did that, so this movie doesn't do anything that the other movies and TV show already did. So either way it goes, this movie, simply by existing, whether it's good or bad, does nothing to negatively affect the original. So we're just gonna put that complaint over here because it doesn't make any sense. So we're just gonna throw that over here and actually talk about the movie on its merits. And so judging this movie as a standalone Crow adaptation by itself, no, it's not good. But it's also not the train wreck that I think it was expected to be. Because a lot of people, by watching the trailer, and the studio itself, by not releasing the review embargo for critics until the day the movie came out, nobody had faith in this movie. Everybody thought it was going to be a train wreck, going to be a garbage dumpster fire. And I don't think that it was a dumpster fire. I think it was 2 hours of wasted potential. I think there were several things in this movie that were set up to be good, and they either didn't follow through with it or spent too much time on it. Because that's the biggest issue with this movie, is the pacing. The pacing is all over the place. It's incredibly inconsistent. And I don't understand why we had to wait to the third act of the movie to see him become the Crow. Primarily because they spend so much time developing the relationship between him and FK Twigs' character. I don't remember her name, but their dynamic and their chemistry I thought was really good. And shoot, it just had to be, because that's the whole movie. But I felt like they had an opportunity, and I felt like they were setting up their own opportunity. This wasn't happenstance. I felt like they were putting the pieces together to have a really interesting and nuanced conversation about their relationship, and they just didn't. You see it in the trailer. They meet and start their relationship in rehab. And so they are both addicts. And after they get out of rehab, they kind of, first of all, they fall off the wagon immediately. So they're still addicts, but they also have this very intense and visceral relationship to the point where they're almost replacing their addiction with each other. So it felt like it was going to try and have a conversation about that, and then have that play into the guilt and the intense emotions after she dies, that is going to just be added fuel for him as the Crow. It doesn't. They're just addicts who are very much in love, and that's all there is to it. And see, what happens when you're bored? What happens when you're bored with the movie is you start to notice things that you would normally give a pass to. Because since I wasn't invested in the story as much as I should have been, I was noticing stuff that didn't make sense, that I probably would have just let go or had my suspension of disbelief take care of if I was invested in the story. But since I wasn't, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Because again, you see it in the trailer, but there's a very big, intense action sequence where he has to take out a bunch of guards, and they're in the vestibule or the lobby of an opera house. He's doing it while an opera is taking place. So the opera house is full, an opera is taking place, and he's taking consistent gunfire right on the other side of the door. And I've been to the theater. I've been to an opera too. They are loud. They are very loud. But if somebody on the other side of the door is emptying a clip into somebody, and then several somebodies, a dozen or so people, emptying clips on the other side of the door, that's something that the soprano isn't singing over. That the orchestra isn't overcompensating for those sounds. The thing that bothered me most, though, was the forced and contrived methods they used for the movie to keep these two people apart by the end. The original deal for Eric is that if he kills these people, then her soul gets released and she gets to come back to life. Great deal. But he goes and he tries a couple times and he just not is not working for him. And then he gets told that as long as his love is pure for her, that he won't be able to die. Like, he'll keep healing and regenerating as long as his love stays pure. But he learns some stuff about her and then starts to doubt. And so he's not regenerating anymore. And so, cool. So they tell him he's out of chances. We just gonna move on. Her soul is damned, right? And then he makes this deal. We're like, well, actually, no. Just take my soul, release hers, and that's the deal. And they was like, okay. And then he goes through like some metamorphosis to like become the Crow. But I don't know why. I don't understand why they just couldn't give him another chance. I don't understand what extraness he got from making this deal that he didn't get the first time. Because if he didn't get all this juice the first time, then why did you expect him to win? Or just give him that deal in the first place. If this is what it takes for him to become the Crow, just let that be the original deal, that it's a soul for a soul and they'll never be able to be together. But the trial and error thing, where all he had to do was really just try a little bit harder and they could have lived happily ever after, but he was just messing up. That to me was, he was just unmotivated, even though he was immortal. It was weird to me, and I don't know. I didn't like it. So the new Crow, have you seen it? What did you think? And honestly, that's not even the most interesting question, because I'm not sure that I care. The more interesting question is, when was the last time you saw the original Crow? Let me know that. When was the last time you saw Brandon Lee's Crow, and how many of those bad sequels have you seen? Let me know that and we can talk about it. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you guys next time.